Tyler, Storm Center live stream edition here for Saturday, February 15th. We've got a solid crew out here to help you through. We've got Lauren O'Neill out in our headquarters outside the Weather Network studios. We've got at our forecast center Tyler Hamilton and Melinda Singh. And of course, we've got Mark Robinson doing what Mark Robinson does best, chasing storms. I'm meteorologist Chris Murphy. And for the next hour or so, we are just going to be breaking down the storm. A lot of components, a lot of dynamic energy going on. What you're seeing in Ontario really is just the jab, the haymaker. You might say the gain itself is coming in for tomorrow, but this is going to have a lot, and what's helping to steer this is the cold air and the prairies diving to the south, charging up the jet stream, and that is the storm track, and that is impacting you in Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes, to a lesser degree into Newfoundland. So with all of that, let's break down and get more to the the science and the specifics, because timeline is very important. This is a very high impact storm that will be impacting millions of Canadians. So Tyler Hamilton, Melinda Singh, let's see where to start. I'll leave that up to you. I think we're going to start in southern areas of Ontario, because that's really where the impact begins.
Yeah, we'll start within the Golden Horseshoe here, Chris, and we do have some developments with our latest forecast. So we've actually gone ahead and changed some of the numbers. So this is what we were forecasting, one of our old snowfall forecasts. We're now upping that, Chris, to 25 to 35 centimeters of snow forecast through the GTA, and locally upwards of 40 centimeters of snow and blizzard conditions in and around the Grimsby-Hamilton region, Melinda, and then we're also watching Ottawa for possible blizzard conditions as well.
Yeah, we definitely need the 4-4-4 rule, which means blizzard conditions overall. So we have the visibility over 4 hours more, and of course has to be less than 400 meters, and it has to be with a duration of over 4 hours. So yes, we could be looking at in the Ottawa region, eastern parts of Ontario, also seeing more heavier amounts of snowfall in that region, tracking around that 30 to 40 plus centimeter range.
And this isn't taking into account how much snow we have on the ground already through the Greater Toronto area. We've had 2 major snowstorms over the past 7 days. This will be the unfortunate or fortunate hat trick, depending on how you're looking at it. But Chris, you're able to walk us through some of these pinch points and really the most dangerous weather we're forecasting with this winter storm.
Absolutely. And by the way, you want to shovel in stages, clear out that 5 to 10 centimeters tonight, and don't wait until Monday morning when you've got 30 plus centimeters to move around. So periods of light snow through this evening, and there may even be just light snow through the overnight, maybe a little bit of mixing, especially towards the Niagara region. But for Toronto itself, Sunday morning is when the heaviest snow with the blowing snow, those northeast winds 30 to 40 kilometers per hour with strong gusts, those snowfall rates could be 3 centimeters an hour. Now, Sunday afternoon to evening, the light snow will continue, but at that point in time, the damage has been done. So as I would say, you want to shovel in stages, go out there, and if you have some elderly neighbors, perhaps maybe give them a hand. You'll be in their good graces, to be sure. Okay, so we have, that's a little bit of a timeline for Toronto. We've got all the major cities we're going to be talking about as well. Let's see. So, Tyler, I'm going to ask you, what is most concerning regarding this storm in your books?
It's the antecedent conditions of having the robust snowpack on the ground, but close following behind this is the wind. So I've got kind of a high resolution model where we can walk through this forecast, Melinda, hour by hour. So today's the appetizer, 5 to 10 centimeters, and then we're going to shift into the Sunday morning zone. This is where some of those 3 to 4 centimeter an hour snowfall rates really start to build in, and you can really see these exposed sections downwards the QEW. Chris, we have heavy snowfall and 40 kilometer an hour winds. This has the recipe for widespread road closures, even highway closures. Some of these roads are going to be frankly impassable to travel through much of Sunday morning. Playing this ahead, we're still dealing with moderate snow, blowing snow, and whiteouts through much of Sunday afternoon. Eventually, those snowfall rates ease, Melinda, Sunday evening, but the damage has been done.
You can really see the wind shift, more of that wind coming up from Lake Ontario. That could actually bring a little bit of lake enhancement as well, especially along the QEW, the 403 corridor. But look at these winds gusting well over 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. So not really doing too much damage, but it still really adds a little bit of a punch there. But you can see on the back end, like you mentioned, Tyler, wind shift, wind tracking out from the west. So yes, we are looking at a break from the snowfall, but areas in the snowbelt regions, Chris, we're not looking at a break, looking at a little bit more lake effect as we head into the back end of the system.
And speaking of those communities up towards Barrie, Aurelia, we've had reports of 100 centimeters, close to 100 centimeters on the ground, Chris Murphy, before this system comes in.
There is so much snow out there. The snow banks are really high, and Mother Nature's going to make another deposit to those banks. Also, because they're being so high, these banks, I would recommend backing into your driveway, because when you get out, it's probably easier for your field of vision, because through those sidewalks, you may not be able to see those hills, those mountains of snow, children running by, and certainly the cars out on the residential streets as well. So there's just another tip, backing in. I'm also just going to highlight the Ottawa region as well, because this winter storm for Ottawa as well is going to be very, very significant. So we'll take a look at some timing here for you when we can here. But the heaviest snow for you will be up into I can see really through Sunday morning, snow and blowing snow, with that snow intensifying. But in the afternoon, whiteout conditions, snowfall rates 2 to 3 centimeters an hour. Look at those northeast winds. I mean, this could be borderline blizzard conditions. And, there's certain criteria that has to be met for a blizzard. But, to most of us, this will feel and look like one. The snow slowly easing by Sunday evening, and by Sunday night, it'll be reduced to flurries. But there is going to be some significant snow in the nation's capital as well. This is a storm with a large wingspan, and it is moving its way eastwards. We will be catching up with Mark Robinson again. We'll be catching up with Lauren O'Neill outside, but I'm just going to go back to Melinda and Tyler here. So concerns for Eastern Ontario. We've timed it out for Ottawa, but how much snow totals could we be talking in this vicinity too?
Yeah, when we look towards the Ottawa region, in fact, Chris, you were sniffing out the borderline blizzard. Our official Weather Network forecast is actually calling for a blizzard for the Ottawa region. So we are pretty confident we are going to meet that criteria when we look at this setup, particularly through the day on Sunday. Those northerly winds gusting 30, 40 kilometers an hour. And in fact, it wouldn't surprise us if those in Eastern Ontario end up with some of the heaviest snow totals of all. We have a 30 to 40 plus centimeter on this graphic. We feel the best dynamics in the atmosphere are there. The snowfall ratios are a little bit higher. It's not going to be a wet snow for Ottawa, and unfortunately that means blowing snow will be much more of a concern because it's so dry.
Absolutely right. We actually have a few questions as well, Tyler, from the viewers. Question 1 is asking whether we will be looking at another storm in our future. Well, I hope we don't really have one, Tyler, but it looks like we'll be looking at a bit of a break from the weather. The jet stream's really pushing a bit more off to the shore. And unfortunately, that snow will be sticking around because the colder air is really going to be diving down into parts of Ontario, Quebec, the prairies. Chris is going to mention this a little bit later on as well. They're seeing temperatures into the minus 30s, wind chills even into the minus 40s.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a Toronto 7-day forecast, and after this big low pressure system departs over Atlantic Canada, our temperatures are comfortably below seasonal for the next 7 to 10 days, Chris.
Comfortably or perhaps uncomfortably below zero, Tyler. Absolutely. Well, outside in the thick of things, of course, Mark Robinson, he was joining us earlier. He had big plans, going to the cottage, put his feet up, relax, maybe have a nice warm fire and enjoy. But no, that's all been changed. And Mark's, we hauled him back to work. And Mark, let's see, I see you're out on the road. So where are you now, and what is the short-term and the long-term plan?
Chris, yes, we were planning on going up to the cottage, and we got up on the 407, got into one of those bands of snow, and it got quite that I didn't want to put my family in danger to make it up to the cottage. We can do that another time. Not a big deal. So what I want to do now is sort of get around, show you some of the snow-covered roads, what's going on in and around the Guelph region. The original idea was to sort of drive down to Hamilton, but right now that Hamilton area doesn't have as much snow falling. But up here in Guelph, where you can kind of see there's quite a bit of snow on the roads, and that is sort of what I've been watching. Kind of see the snow beginning to come in from the west. It's not been too bad, but I'll tell you, the drive back, we made it basically over to I'm going to say around the zoo and I finally just sort of said, this is crazy. It was so dangerous. We turned around and came back, and that drive back was not fun at all. So yeah, if you're out and about today, just keep in mind those conditions are going to be pretty changeable. You may get some nice clear air at time like I've got right now, but that will be switching over to full snow here and there. So just please be aware if you're going to do stuff today. Make short trips out. Just make sure you take a quick look at the weather radar here at the Weather Network. We'll let you know what's going on, where that snow's coming in, and whether you can make that quick trip over to the grocery store, Chris.
All right, and keep in mind that if you are going to be doing some traveling, pack a shovel in your car along with maybe some extra salt. Make sure your cell phone is charged up as well. This is not simply or merely an Ontario storm. It's also going to have a big impact in Quebec. Got a timeline here for Montreal as well. So really tomorrow morning is when things really start to pick up with the snow and the blowing snow intensifying. And from the morning to the afternoon, that 1 to 2 centimeters per hour snowfall rate likely doubles. So imagine 4 centimeters an hour with those northeast winds 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. And Tyler Hamilton, I know you put this graphic together. You highlighted the word blizzard right there. So if that word there doesn't say, maybe I should not venture out, then I don't know what else we can tell you. Sunday evening, heavy snow and blowing snow continues, still heavy snowfall rates, and then by Sunday night into Monday morning, I mean, you still got a biting wind chill to deal with as well because the colder air will follow. So let's see, Melinda and Tyler, when we're talking about Montreal and through Quebec, I mean, how much snow are we really talking here?
Well, yeah, it is a lot when you look at our forecast in and around the Montreal region. So this is our latest numbers. We've got widespread 30 to 40 centimeters of snow forecast for the island of Montreal. But as you push further south and east, Sherbrooke, some of the eastern townships are pushing towards over 40 centimeters of snowfall. This is going to be quite a historic storm when it comes to snowfall events of this caliber this century, Melinda. And we can sort of take a look at the Montreal region and kind of get a hyper local look at some of these zoomed in crops here. So we'll begin to kind of walk you through this blizzard situation that'll unfold in the Montreal region. So this is the scene, Melinda. You're waking up kind of Sunday morning, sustained winds, but watch them increase here.
It's really going to be a stay-at-home day on Sunday because these winds are going to be very gusty, over 30 kilometers per hour with the heavy snowfall rate. So you're looking at 2 to 4, even 5 centimeters per hour. So yes, blizzard conditions are really going to be possible for many areas. Circles here and on your screen as well. We also have a question asking about Quebec City, and is there a chance that flights could be delayed? Well, most certainly in the Montreal airport as well. Pearson, especially for a Sunday, you can really be expecting flight delays from right up along the 401 corridor into even parts of the Maritime provinces, as this system will be impacting that region coming up. And Chris will have more on that as well.
Yes, indeed. So again, we talked about this is a large storm, and we're not even at the core of it yet. It's still well down in the U.S., but it's that cold air from the prairies and the warmer air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico. So for those of you in Atlantic Canada watching right now specifically, we're still talking about Newfoundland dealing with the blustery conditions, still lots of blowing snow, but let's time this out for you. And again, so tonight is not bad. Get your last minute stuff done today and this evening, because what's coming in tomorrow is snow, ice pellets, freezing rain, even some rain showers into Nova Scotia overnight into Monday morning. So if you are, say, in Halifax, I think for you the primary concern is going to be the freezing rain. Everybody starts as snow, and that will be developing really Sunday afternoon, and then Sunday evening, that's when we see that snow changing over to several hours of freezing rain. I know you had freezing rain earlier this week, and it turned those roads into rinks. This will likely happen again, but then overnight that changes over to rain showers, and then by Sunday night into Monday, we'll start to see those temperatures drop once again. Now, if you are elsewhere across the Maritime, look at that heavy snow. So you go up Route 8 there from Fredericton to Miramichi, you're getting in from 20 to 40 centimeters of snow. Go southwards along there, Highway 7, take you down to St. John, and then you'll see, snow to start, but then it's the ice pellets and the risk of freezing rain as well down into Nova Scotia. So this is a real mess. This is a real mess around the Bay of Fundy. PEI as well. This is Sunday night into Monday morning. Snow, ice pellets, but again, just got to highlight that freezing rain threat could be 5 to 8 hours or so, but this will also be accompanied by some strong wind. So that's the other element. So that's a little bit of a look at the East Coast. And also, Melinda and Tyler, we know we go back to Ontario because that's where the storm's impacting first. So I know people are probably looking out their window right now and say, well, you know, it's snowy, but we've seen worse. But this is not the main event we're seeing now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're seeing some light snow, which is still going to make travel a bit more tricky out on the roadways. I know it's a long weekend. Everyone has plans. But if you can, reschedule it for a Sunday, Tyler, because things are going to be very tricky out on the roadways, especially those who are essential workers and have to get out to work. You're really going to have to take your time out on the roads, leave early if you can, and yes, of course, like Chris, you mentioned earlier, shovel your driveway or snow blow in pieces as the snow continues to come down.
And yeah, something to keep in mind here, Chris and Melinda, it's not a one-day cleanup. This storm is going to take several days through the Greater Toronto area, Eastern Ontario, to really get a handle. So thankfully, Monday is a holiday because we will still be very much in storm cleanup mode because these are our current numbers of snow on the ground. Toronto Pearson has a foot of snow, 28 centimeters of snow on the ground. Melinda, as of this morning, Ottawa, half a meter. Montreal, 27 at the airport. Downtown, there's some reports of double that ahead of this storm. So portions of Montreal could have close to 100 centimeters of snow on the ground in the snow belts. London, Barrie at 74 centimeters. Orillia pushing 94 centimeters of snowfall. And we at the Weather Network love our stats, if you haven't noticed. So this is a look at our biggest snow days this turn of the century. So this is where we stand. Of course, those of us in the GTA, January 17th, 2022, remember the locally 40 centimeters that fell during rush hour that essentially closed a lot of the highways and the off-ramps. We could be pushing similar amounts with that, Chris Murphy. When we look at the over-under for Pearson, you have to think it's, hovering around that 35 centimeter mark here for tomorrow.
Well, there's already people online saying, is Toronto going to call in the army again? But I mean, those snowbanks are getting pretty tall and it's getting hard to see around corners. So we got to make sure. Also, the other thing too, and this is such a busy travel time, let alone this is a family day, long weekend, but so many people escape in February to go to sunnier climes. So either departing or coming back, this is going to likely wreak havoc at the airports as well. Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, just to name a few. So there could be some people stuck at airports. All right, let's go to Innisfil, Ontario. So this is north of Toronto, south of Barrie, and this is earlier today. We can start to see now snow like this is pretty manageable in terms of the snowfall rate. Well, that's going to change. Of course, Innisfil, no stranger to lake effect snow squalls. This is unlike those those snowstorms we had earlier in the winter when it really hit cottage country in the snow belts and it left pretty much everybody else alone. That is not the case. We've seen that last Saturday. We saw that Wednesday, Thursday, and we're seeing it again this weekend. So high impact travel, to be sure. So
and Chris, we're getting some more questions in from our viewers. Those wondering about how much snow Brampton will see. So we've got a nice hyper-local approach here. Melinda, you look at our map for the Greater Toronto Area, extended region here. 25 to 35 centimeters of snow forecast for the Brampton area.
And this includes Saturday and Sunday's snowfall, so it's definitely a bigger event over 2 days, but the heaviest amounts of snow, Tyler, will be coming in as we head into Sunday morning. Even into the afternoon hours, things will linger. For you in Collingwood as well, you were seeing around that 20 to 30 range, but there's a chance for some lake effect behind it. And it really depends on where those bands meander, of course. We could be looking at it more so to the west or to the east. So overall, we'll definitely continue to update you on how much snow we'll be getting in the snowbelt regions with lake effect coming up.
Yeah, and we'll walk through this and we can kind of see how this event will transition from a storm, a system storm. So this is a Texas low. That's why this system is so moisture laden, and that sweet spot track, we've got that cold air in place and those bands of really heavy snow. So this is kind of, we'll reverse this a little bit. This is tomorrow morning, Melinda, widespread snow as far as Muskoka, cottage country, the shores of Georgian Bay dealing with that 20 plus centimeters of snow, and then the lake effect behind it. So you see this switch out of the north-northwest Sunday evening. You're getting those really brutal bursts of snow squalls in the snow belts through Monday morning. So we're going to keep a close eye on that. Of course, those who are trying to dig out from the system snow on Sunday don't want to be dealing with more lake effect snow.
Absolutely right. And you know, these winds are quite gusty, over 40 to even 60 kilometers per hour. It's not meeting blizzard conditions, but we could be looking at reduced visibilities out on the roadways if you do have to travel, blowing snow, of course, especially on the highways. So definitely take your time out on the roadways if you do have to travel. Saturday, things are starting to pick up in intensity as well. I do have some numbers here that we can talk about in terms of how much we've been seeing as of 3 p.m. London has picked up 5 centimeters, a little bit of freezing drizzle and some snow as well. Toronto's seeing around 2 centimeters so far, and Hamilton around 6.
All right, well, we have a ways to go, Chris, in terms of the snowfall. It's just begun. And you're here to tell us about, what is fueling such a prolific storm. We need a key ingredient across this country.
We do, and it's the cold air, Tyler, and you're feeling it in the prairie. So, if you're in Saskatoon, you're in Regina, no, you're not in the storm track, but my goodness, are you ever playing a part to this whole storm system? Just take a look at Sunday. This is daytime highs with the temperature in the wind chill. Now, keep in mind, these are temperatures that are good 10 and even 20 degrees below seasonal in some areas. And then Sunday overnight, this is without wind chill, minus 42 in Prince Albert, minus 41 in Saskatoon, and it is going to stay that way into Monday overnight as well. And here's another key ingredient too as well, is that this is a time of year when a lot of the prairies have their winter festivals going on. This is the Festival de Voyageurs in Winnipeg. This is opening weekend. We've got the Prince Albert Winter Festival going on there as well. So, and these are important to local economies, but take a look what happens by the end of the week and into next weekend. We see a big change in the weather pattern. Like Saskatoon, I mean, you're going from minus 27 to that plus 1 by Saturday. Now, some of these numbers may get tweaked a bit, but the idea is to show you is that it's going to be frigid for the next few days and especially at night, but there is some hope. But as long as we got that cold air and we got that jet stream screaming over the Great Lakes in Quebec, well, that will likely ensure an active storm track. Okay, so Linda and Tyler, here we go. We've got a lot of people getting prepared for this one. And, just make sure that, if you have to be traveling, try to get it out and over with now, because I think tomorrow it could be nearly impossible.
It is, and we're going to go to a question. Those questions are rolling in, and it's not really a hyperbole to say travel will be nearly impossible, because, frankly, there'll be a lot of people who won't be able to leave their side streets with over 30 centimeters of snow forecast through the GTA. So, Melinda, we've had a couple questions involving flight status. Right. You're going to want to check with your airline and airport as well. Keep up to date on X and social media with that. But there is a high likelihood delays will snowball into the following day. So it's not going to be like by Sunday evening we're back to smooth business as usual for Toronto Pearson. We're actually going to watch some flight delays, possibly spilling into the holiday Monday as well.
Yeah, we're seeing that heavy snow, which is really going to cause a concern. We're not seeing too much ice, which is good news. But yes, the snow is going to be a major concern. Of course, the blowing winds, blowing the snow around, that's really going to reduce visibility. So it's going to be hard to take off, hard to drive those planes in this kind of weather, even at the surface, and of course, higher levels in our atmosphere. We have one more question here. How's it looking for Holiday Monday in PEI? I know, Chris, you have all the details on Atlantic Canada.
Yes, and I will be getting to that because we've got expecting rough travel for early part of Monday in Prince Edward Island because we've got the risk of snow, ice pellets, freezing rain, and strong winds, and that'll be picking up for you in PEI Sunday evening through to Monday morning. So you're getting blasted again. Mark Robinson, we have him standing by because we talked about will this have implications to flight travel? Absolutely, implications to road travel. Now keep in mind, Mark, this is by far not the worst that's going to see, but I'm looking out there. This is starting to look a little bit uninviting. How whereabouts are you now?
Hey, Chris, yeah, I'm headed between Guelph towards Kitchener-Waterloo region. I took a quick look at the radar, and you can sort of see the snow really filling in towards the Elmira area, just sort of a little bit north of that. Lots of people know in some of the, like Elora, that sort of area, well known for places, to go and, go and get your farmer's market things. But no farmer's markets open today, I think, because Well, if you just look outside out there, it's funny, Chris. You were talking about the aircraft and the flight delays at the airport, and keep in mind that one of the things, like, I have quite often flown, and they de-ice the planes, so so you got to add that in, so that slows everything down. Everything may be running, but even just the simple act of de-icing those planes can add a whole bunch of time on. And I always say, if you want to take 2.5 hours to de-ice my plane, you go right ahead and do that. I got a friend of mine who's a pilot, and he does say the one thing that does scare him is those wings icing up on his way up to get up to those flight level atmosphere. But I'm not at flight level atmosphere. I am at like sea level right here, and you can see just on the travel towards Kitchener-Waterloo, it is definitely starting to fill in here. It wasn't this bad 5 minutes ago, but definitely getting worse and worse. And we can definitely, as I said, I'm just looking at the radar. It's really starting to come in off of Lake Huron, and it does look like Kitchener-Waterloo is about to get hit fairly hard.
Indeed. Now, Mark, it's a Saturday. Saturday evening's a big time. A lot of people want to head out. If they must head out, what would be things you bring in the car, say, that just so you're prepared for? You always want to be prepared for the unexpected.
I would say what you want to bring with you is nothing and stay home.
Okay.
No, but I understand some people that absolutely talk about, essential workers, that sort of people will be traveling. And so what I always recommend is just basic extra things. We're talking about extra jackets, snow pants, boots. Quite often, people are going out on a Saturday night. They want to be dressed up a little, and maybe put on some nice heels. You know what? Make sure there's a pair in your car, because if you have to walk through the snow, you are not going to enjoy it if you have to do it in heels. And of course, on top of that, a cell phone charger and a charged up cell phone. Always useful, because if you are in trouble, you can contact authorities, you can contact family, you can just do more with a cell phone and make sure that you're safe. On top of that, if you really are stuck, I always say throw a shovel in.
Yep.
And there is a shovel sitting in the back of my car, a little bit of kitty litter for traction, and a 2x4 or 2x6 is actually what I have in the back of the car. I may be going a little bit on the overkill side of it, but I have been in the ditch more than once, and I know what it takes to get out of those ditches.
We have seen you in a ditch more than once, Mark Robinson. Got some video here I want to share with you, and let's go to Toronto. And this is the scene earlier today before the snow started to come down. But even still, look at all the snow that is already there. So those snowbanks are going to get higher. It's going to get slippery out as well. Visibility is going to get worse, particularly through Sunday. Let's go to Brampton, and you can see, the dogs love snow. I have 2 cats, by the way. They love the snow. I didn't think cats like snow, but they certainly do. And you can see the mounds of the snow. So it's probably going to be short walks with your pet. And remember, if it gets too dicey for you, it's too dicey for them as well. Do you have a fire hydrant at the end of your driveway? Perhaps you want to make sure that gets cleared out as well, because those few extra precious seconds could be the difference between a house saved and a house burned. I'm just going to walk you through the winter storm timeline here for Toronto as well. So again, through this evening, periods of light snow, gusty east winds, nothing you haven't seen before, but it's been snowing for a few hours. Overnight, still those periods of light snow, but it's tomorrow morning you start getting those heaviest snow with the blowing snow. Snowfall rates potentially 3 centimeters an hour. That's why we're really harping on the restrict, if not eliminate completely, any travel. And those northeast winds are going to be gusting through the day. So that light snow will continue for the better part of Sunday. And Tyler and Melinda, you take a city the size of Toronto and the Greater Toronto Area as well, and you factor in another 25, 30 plus centimeters of snow. And that is quite a recipe. And like you've been mentioning, Tyler, this is not like this is the first storm. This is following quickly on the heels of previous ones.
Yeah, and Chris, it's not inconceivable Toronto could have the second most snow on the ground in recorded history. Number one, of course, that infamous series of storms in 1999 where the Army was called in to help remove snow. This is what we have on the ground right now at Pearson, the 28 centimeters, but that benchmark back in 1999 is 67 centimeters. So I think we'll stay below that. Hopefully, if this event does somehow overachieve, we could be looking at over 60 centimeters of snow on the ground at Pearson Monday morning. And we're getting some questions down towards Essex County, extreme southwestern Ontario. Melinda, how much snow will Windsor see?
Well, looking at the radar of the past couple of hours, Tyler, we saw quite a bit of snow move through, a little bit of a change over to some freezing rain. Now it looks like we're in a bit of a lull. So we are looking at a potentially 15 to 25 centimeter range. By late day Sunday, of course, we're mentioning the more heavier snow will be pushing in as we head into the later half or early half of Sunday rather. But yeah, seeing a little bit of a break in this, the early appetizer like we've been talking about, and we'll see the main course move in by the overnight hours into early Sunday morning time.
Yeah, and the bigger picture with this, a lot of these storms just hit one or two large communities across across southern Ontario, for example. This Texas low has found the sweet spot in terms of really snarling and making it the highest impact storm possible, stretching from Essex County all the way to Montreal, Quebec City. When you look at the amount of people dealing with this snowfall, it's well in excess of 6, 7, 8 million when you start to look at the impact associated with this storm.
Now I have a quick question. I'm allowed to ask questions here too as well, but we encourage you to, if you're watching, to ask questions. So Tyler and Melinda, are you concerned about, say, the freezing rain threat? Because often we know with these big storms, they can bring a lot of mixed precipitation. Are you concerned about freezing rain? And if so, or ice pellets, where would that be?
Yeah, so we want to start and look at the Niagara Peninsula. That is kind of our one sensitive spot here in terms of this storm track through southwestern Ontario, including the GTA. But the latest model runs are in, and you see a little bit of freezing rain and mixing here for regions east of Grimsby out towards Welland, St. Catharines. But it seems like the cold is going to win out with that heaviest precipitation locking in through Sunday morning. So we'll keep an eye on that. In terms of extreme southwestern Ontario, there is a slight chance of a little bit of mixing down towards London, Sarnia, Windsor. But you can see this model really bullish on snow. So the models have trended a little bit cooler. That is a trend we're noticing there. Not so for Atlantic Canada. We have pretty darn high confidence that we are looking at several hours of freezing rain across mainland Nova Scotia, 5 to 8 hours in fact. And that is also paired with strong winds, Melinda. So we're not getting a massive accretion event on the power lines in and around Halifax, north towards Truro, the Cobequid Pass. Those regions are going to get several hours of freezing rain, 5 to 10 millimeters or so. Some of these strong winds may allow a little bit more ice accretion and also bring down some of those branches. So that is a concern when you see wind gusts over 60 kilometers an hour for the Halifax-Dartmouth region through Sunday evening. So this is kind of the danger zone, Sydney, Cape Breton, out towards Colchester, Cumberland County through Sunday evening, late Sunday evening. Southern New Brunswick, the warm air aloft is a little bit more shallow. So Melinda, we're talking about the risk of ice pellets. So whole bunch of ice pellets in the forecast for Moncton and Fredericton Sunday overnight. That is going to drastically lower your total amount of shovelable snow. And speaking of those heaviest snowfall amounts, all eyes on New Brunswick, Chris.
Oh.
We're seeing Plaster Rock, Miramichi, Doketown, Bathurst, pushing towards that 40 centimeter mark.
By the way, in Plaster Rock, the World Pond Hockey Tournament, that begins on February 20th. So there's going to be a lot of snow to shovel out so that the tournament can go on. Look forward to that one every single year. I know we had a question. Somebody wanted to know that in Ottawa, will public transit operate in Ottawa tomorrow? I don't work for the public transit system, but if I were, I would probably say it is going to be severely reduced, if not canceled outright. Because as we take a look at the Ottawa timeline for you, certainly by Sunday morning, the snow and blowing snow is intensifying. That snowfall rate 1 to 2 centimeters per hour, but then that accelerates up to about 3 centimeters an hour. But it's the heavy snow and the combination of the strong winds producing whiteout conditions, if not full-on on blizzard conditions. So that's for much of Sunday, because even in Sunday evening, although the snowfall rate decreases, you still got blowing and drifting snow to contend with. By Sunday night, generally this is tapering off, but again, blowing snow. So this is going to be a weekend where I would say it is not worth going out, whether it is by driving, whether it is by public transit. Keep in mind as well, for those who rely on Uber, they tend to jack up the prices as well, because it tends to be a more hazardous commute for them as well. Okay, Melinda and Tyler, let's see. Quebec, there has been obviously a big snowstorm that hit earlier this week, where Montreal got over 30 centimeters of snow. It's the second largest city in the country. Are they going to once again be on the hook in Montreal and surrounding areas for a decent snowstorm?
Yeah, we're really going to start to see that snow later today, so into around the overnight hours. Maybe some light snow, some flurries, but the main event will parts to push in as we head into the late morning hours, well into the afternoon hours. We're looking at the heavy amounts of snowfall, even parts across the eastern townships. You can see those darker blues there, indicating more heavier snowfall rates, potentially over 2 to 5 centimeters per hour. So that's why we're tending to see the heaviest snowfall towards the east. But we're going to continue to see snow well into Family Day Monday. And by the afternoon hours, yes, that's when we're going to finally be able to do quite a bit of some cleanup across parts of Quebec. Look at these numbers here, 30 to 40 centimeters of snowfall, even including parts of the Montreal region, up towards Gatineau, 20 to 30. It's going to be a lot of fresh powder for a lot of ski resorts, not only across Ontario, but also across Quebec.
And that is it, when you can get to those ski resorts safely, right? It's going to take several days to clean up these amounts. That's our official forecast. Downtown Montreal, we're comfortably in that 30 to 40 centimeter range. So this is a all-encompassing storm. It's got the wintry mix component, Chris, across Atlantic Canada. That's pretty classic, but what's not so classic is just how blockbuster of a storm this is for Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton. Some of these cities are, if this storm overachieves a little bit, some of these cities, maybe more than one, may be looking at over 40 centimeters of snow. Yeah,
and once you get about 30 centimeters of snow, travel is pretty much impossible. There's actually a bigger impact or difference between 20 centimeters of snow, say, versus 30 centimeters of snow than there is 30 to 40. I mean, it's bad at 30, it's bad at 40, it's bad at 50. So regardless of that. Now, we also have Lauren O'Neill. She's joining us, and she's outside our studios at the Weather Network headquarters, and this is an area. Oakville got blasted with a lot of snow earlier this week, and I know in our parking lot. Now I want to say thank you first of all to those of you at the Weather Network who've been able to clear the parking lot for us to get in and out. So that has been nice. But I can see those massive snowbanks. And Lauren, welcome to the live stream. How does it feel out there? What does it look like? First of all, let's talk about the current conditions. Okay, I think we're having audio issues right now with Lauren. We'll get that straightened out, and but we can see clearly.
Thanks so much, Chris. Yeah, I mean, it's snowing, definitely. Some big fat flakes out here. You can kind of see them going almost horizontally across my face. It is getting quite windy out here. This big snowbank, we were trying to estimate it from inside, and oh, apologies. Very big, very big.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me now?
All right, we'll get back to, I think we're having some audio issues with Lauren, but we'll get that sorted out. Again, we've been talking about the storm track. Things really changed from January to February, almost like a flip of the switch. And the jet stream has been bringing a big trough across the west, a very classic La Nina weather pattern, the cold air in the prairies. And then you get these storms that often form either in Colorado or Texas, and they get larger as they move their way northeastwards. And you can see that storm track right over the Great Lakes, right over Quebec and into Atlantic Canada. Now, if you are in northern Ontario, if you're north of Highway 17, north of North Bay, north of Sudbury, this is not your storm. But cottage country, it is the Algonquin Highlands, Ottawa, down through to Cornwall, right through the Niagara region, Windsor, London, Sarnia, and in the traditional snow belts, and of course outside of the snow belts. This is a storm you really have to pay attention to. All right, let's go back to Melinda and Tyler. So let's see, we've discussed the snow, we've discussed the wind. What else can we help those who are watching to prepare properly for this yet another storm system coming in?
Well, Chris, we're getting those viewers helping us out with the incessant questions. We love hearing about your storm questions here. So this question is asking about the Oshawa region. So how much snow will essentially fall across eastern sections of the GTA? So we'll refer you back to this pretty prolific snowfall map, Melinda.
It's really encompassing majority of the GTA. Tyler's forecast typically divide up the west end of the GTA, the central parts, the eastern parts. It really looks like the majority of the GTA and even northern parts will be tracking 25 to 35 centimeters of snow by early day Monday. A bit more of a wider cropping here as well, up towards the Nickel Belt, 10 to 20 centimeters in the forecast for you too.
And yeah, just for reference, behind the scenes, when we're deciding to heighten our coverage to Storm Center, normally a 10 to 20 centimeter snowfall event with some strong winds would be enough. So this is almost double some of those amounts, and it's just across such a far-reaching area all the way to Ottawa, Montreal, and we're continuing to get some questions across Atlantic Canada as well. So we have a question, Melinda, about the snow moving through Nova Scotia.
Yes, it looks like this time around, Tyler, we're really going to be tracking in more of the freezing rain aspect because the warm front, it's really bringing in more of that warmer air. We'll start off as snow because the colder air is there, but behind it, we're going to be looking at a transition over to ice pellets, freezing rain, and then potentially even some rainfall by late Sunday. Yeah,
so when you're waking up Monday morning, you're not going to see too much in the way of accumulation, especially Halifax and the south shore of Nova Scotia. Right now, our forecast is about 10 centimeters of moderate to heavy snow. That pushes in through the afternoon, as you said, quick transition over to a wintry mix. And then it's that freezing rain risk that will hang out over the Halifax region through the pre-dawn hours of Monday. So that is kind of the latest details. And also a question, Chris, we look towards eastern townships as well, Montreal. Those regions are expecting some really hefty snowfall totals as well.
Well, of course, you got the enhancement with the topography, so you get some upsloping in the mountains, the ski hills. I mean, the ski lovers are going to really enjoy this this snowfall amount because there's going to be a significant, could be looking in excess of 30 centimeters, which, by the way, is a foot of snow headed that way. Now, I just want to mention quickly also, because you were touching on Atlantic Canada, and I think this is a good question. Also, an earlier question we had from PEI, what kind of impact that will be. Well, let's take a look first of all, Halifax, and then I'm just going to walk you through some of the snowfall amounts and the ice pellets. So in Halifax itself, again, this is more of a Sunday into Monday event. So things pick up Sunday afternoon and it will start as snow, but it's that freezing rain threat for several hours. And it could be looking at about 5 millimeters of ice accretion. So this won't be, 2 or 3 centimeters worth of ice, thankfully, but this will likely be enough to knock power out and certainly make very hazardous travel conditions. Over to, this is how much more snow we are expecting. And just to go back to Newfoundland here in Corner Brook. Now, Corner Brook, it was a slow start to winter, and then things really changed largely because of CFX snow. I mean, look at this. You open up the door and the snow, there's nowhere to be because there's nowhere to go in a case like this. So that's all largely been driven by CFX snow. We haven't had as much in St. John's, although of course we had that nice blizzard there last weekend. So across Newfoundland, another 10 to 15 centimeters for snow to come for Western Newfoundland, about 5 centimeters for St. John's. So again, Newfoundland, this is not your storm per se. This is more run of the mill, but you get northern areas of New Brunswick and the Gaspé well over 30 or 40 centimeters of snow snow, but it's southern New Brunswick, PEI, and some of those areas in Nova Scotia where you get your snow changing over to ice pellets. And ice pellets are the ones that sting your face. They can accumulate. It's like riding over little marbles in that case. So not as dangerous as freezing rain, but I would personally take snow over ice pellets just because of that additional component. And again, it's that freezing rain. So again, just to go back to Prince Edward Island, this will start as snow on Sunday, but Sunday night likely going to freezing rain, ice pellets, and then it could change over to rain showers, and then we'll drop our temperatures again through Monday. So a little bit of everything for the East Coast, and not to mention, of course, the strong winds. It's been a blustery stretch on the East Coast. That will continue. All right, let's go now to Mark Robinson. He's outside driving around. And Mark, you know, you had plans. Maybe you can help the people who are watching. What was your initial plan for today, and have those plans changed?
Well, Chris, you know, my initial plan was to be up at the cottage right about now.
I think we lost Mark. Well, his plan was to go up to the cottage, but I could. Oh, we've got him again? Okay, Mark, sorry. We had to cut you off for a second.
You got me back?
We've got you back, Mark. This is the joys of live streaming, you know.
Good.
It can be predictably unpredictable. But we're back, and so you left us hanging. Don't leave us in suspense, Mark. You were going to the cottage, and then what happened?
And then what happened? I got on the 407 going across, got caught in those bands, and said, you know what? I am going to, for once, take the less dangerous route, take the family back home. So now I'm out and about trying to show you a little bit and being a little bit of an early warning system for the GTA. So I'm actually in Kitchener-Waterloo right now and headed out towards Stratford along Highway 7. And so what you're seeing now is what is moving towards the GTA. We're seeing some time periods where when I left Guelph, it was not that bad. The roads were wet, but not snow covered. Now I'm out here, sort of on the western side of Kitchener-Waterloo, and oh boy, what a change. We're getting a lot of snow down on the roads, and I can see a plow ahead of me. Definitely, he is working away. I think just dropping salt on the roads, just preparing for the larger part of the storm. But I did want to show our viewers what it is like out here. Now, the one thing I'm noticing is there's not as many people as there quite normally is out on Highway 7 here, so that's really, really good to see. I'll be traveling likely down to the 401 in a little bit just to sort of see, to sample the 401, see how that's doing. But it does look at this point that it's the main snow area. The main areas that's being hit are sort of Kitchener-Waterloo and then a little bit north of there. This whole system, though, moving through, and this is just the beginning. Like, this is not even the worst part of it, because we're going to see a lot more as we get into Sunday. Am I correct, Chris, that I am going to be busy for the next 2 days?
I think so. And at times, the storm hunter could be the storm hunted. So yes, we will keep you up to date with Mark's adventures. He's as informative as he is entertaining. And Mark brought up a key point here, and I want to show you our weather map here. He said this is not even the main event. When we look at the big picture here, what this is this is sort of the prefrontal trough right there swinging through. That's what's bringing in the snow. The main energy is still well down to the south. You can see through, looks like going from Oklahoma over towards the Arkansas area, and that is going to scoop up the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and that will be meeting the colder air coming in from the prairies. Okay, so Tyler and Melinda, I have a question for you. Do you foresee this to be a really heavy, wet, slushy kind of snow? Will this be the dry, fluffy snow that's easy to clear but blows around, or perhaps something in between?
So when we look at the track of this storm, the center of this Texas low remains pretty far south, Chris, in terms of this. So this is a factor when you look at these winds. You're on the cold side of the low. You can see this inflow, this surface flow remaining out of the northeast. That's not a wet snowfall for the greater Toronto area, so we expect those snowfall ratios to be in that 10-to-1, 12-to-1 zone for this. So the only region that will be kind of looking at more of a wetter snow would be kind of around the Niagara Falls region. We'll watch to St. Catharines, where that snow will pile up and be a little bit more tricky to shovel in terms of those heavier snowfall amounts. And guess what? We've had some questions about the B word, blizzard We need to know, Melinda, what's the criteria we're looking for Environment Canada to issue a blizzard warning?
Well, there is really called a 4x4 rule. So we need winds sustained over 40 kilometers per hour or greater. Visibility has to be 400 meters or less, and conditions have to persist for more than 4 hours. You mentioned earlier, Tyler, our forecast is looking at blizzard criteria for parts of eastern Ontario, including the nation's capital.
And it's quite nuanced when you look at blizzard conditions. Do you have a deep snowpack? Well,
Right.
check. Look at all GTA, Montreal, over towards sections of Quebec City. We have that. Limited obstruction. So that's where we look towards those open fields where you can readily get those visibilities falling to near zero. Check. High precipitation rates. Check. This is a Texas low that will bring snowfall rates to 2 to 4 centimeters an hour. And the dry, fluffy snow well on the northern side of the track. So if we check this basic blizzard risk criteria, I think that's 4 of 4 for a few regions anyway across southern Ontario and Quebec.
4 out of 4 for the 444. All right, you said it right there. And, and into Quebec, we want to time this out for you as well. And again, we've already seen the first little wave moving through Ontario. And regarding Quebec itself, first of all, you see that it picks up through a little bit of a lull tonight. It's not heavy, but look at all through Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, and get down towards Sherbrooke and those eastern townships area, the Beauce region. I mean, that's snowfall rate 5+ centimeters an hour. So very poor visibility. By about Monday morning, most of this is tapering off. Still lingers around Quebec City a bit longer, but you're certainly looking at potentially 30 to 40 centimeters of snow around that very populated area. So whether you do Highway 20 or Highway 40, it doesn't matter. It's going to hit both of those big east-west routes between Montreal and Quebec City, not to mention north and south. So the ski hills, that's good news. But here's for Montreal, the winter storm timeline. And Sunday morning, again, the snow and the blowing snow, that's intensifying, but it's really through the afternoon as well. It gets even worse. And then, of course, now you've got more snow on the ground, and then you've got the winds whipping it around. So blizzard conditions highlighted. Heavy snow and blowing snow continues through Sunday evening and into Sunday night. So certainly Sunday is something you want to completely, you don't want to leave home, possibly. All right, so Melinda and Tyler, I understand we have another question from a viewer. This is excellent stuff.
It's great stuff. Appreciate the engagement. So what are the expected ice pellet totals for Atlantic Canada? So ice pellets, Melinda, much more dense, obviously. So we just took this computer model and sampled some of the output there. So southern New Brunswick seems to be the ground zero region for ice pellets. You may have upwards, 3 to 5 centimeters because it's so compact and dense. It's quite tricky to kind of shovel. So that's kind of the highest ice pellet amount we're forecasting as of now.
Yeah, but areas towards north, you'll be looking at more so snow. Areas across Nova Scotia, yes, you'll be seeing ice pellets also be mixed in with freezing rain. So you're seeing a lot of different types of precipitations this time around.
And I don't know if this is a trick question with school on Sunday. I think they're trying to pull a fast one on us, especially with the family day on Monday. I believe most school districts have no classes in session on Monday because that would have potentially been a snow day with cleaning up with some of these impacts. So don't imagine there'll be too many delays by Tuesday. I think the cleanup will be well underway. So if this was happening on a Wednesday, Thursday, yeah, we would be dealing with a snow day like we saw Thursday morning through a lot of school districts, including the Toronto School District, for example.
Yeah, but it looks like Quebec is actually, schools are open on Monday, so maybe a snow day for parts of Quebec.
There we go. And these are some of the scenes through the greater Toronto area. This is still that prefrontal trough that Chris Murphy was referring to. So snowfall rates within this trough, Melinda, generally under 1 centimeter an hour. So it's not enough to drop the visibility at the airports to much lower than, say, 3 or 4 kilometers. We are still forecasting the heavier snow to really pivot in through the overnight period. So this is where you want to have all your storm prep complete, essentially, as we look towards Niagara, taking this one first Saturday evening, and then these heavy bands really push in through Sunday morning. That's 2-3 centimeters an hour for several hours. It's not a 4-hour snowfall event, unfortunately. You see 12 to 16 hours straight of snowfall through the greater Toronto area, over 16 plus hours of snowfall straight consecutively for Montreal. You do the math at 1 or 2 centimeters an hour for that long. That's why our snowfall forecast pushes towards that 40 centimeter mark.
And again, you were talking about the antecedent conditions where this is on top of already lots of snow that is on the ground. And we've had this cold air, which has just been injecting into the south, charging up these storm systems and also providing that storm track. So frigid air in the prairies, stormy conditions through the weekend across portions of central and eastern Canada. But as we get into mid and late next week and next weekend, we see more of a retreat of the Arctic air, and this should help also change up that storm pattern as well. So that's something we're certainly keeping a close eye on. So even though in the prairies you may not be in the storm track, you are playing a part in all of this. All right, let's go to some video here we want to share with you. And here's the scene in Brampton, Ontario, and we're loving the viewer contributions through all of this. That's a snowy backyard, but this time tomorrow, those snow piles will be even higher as well. So if I can give you any good tips, I would say shovel in stages. Maybe before you go to bed tonight, shovel out the 5 to 10 centimeters, or wherever the case may be fallen in your area. And then tomorrow, you don't want to shovel it all at once. So just go in stages and maybe help out those vulnerable neighbors, the elderly. Certainly want to keep that in mind. All right, Mark Robinson joining us now. Mark, when I was talking to you there on Thursday morning, you went out and after a busy day, you went and shoveled your mother's driveway. So I want to make sure I give you your props there, Mark. You're not just a good meteorologist, you're a good son too.
Yeah, no, we got Mom's driveway quite nicely shoveled out. But Chris, it was really interesting because the snow that was in the driveway in Toronto, very fluffy and quite easy to shovel, even though it was 20 centimeters. But I can tell you, driving around those side streets was very, very tricky. You had to be very careful because some of those side streets, you could only go one direction, and that was it. And that was the big deal there. And this one is going to be fairly similar. But I think there's going to be more snow, which is going to make it that much more difficult to get out of the driveway. And of course, where we're going to put it all, I'm still not sure.
Well, that is a big question too, Mark, because there's a lot of those there's depositories. They put them in ice rinks. They've got dedicated locations to put the snow. But for those of you who are just trying to shovel out your driveway, I mean, trying to get past the mounds of the previous, that in itself is something else. Well, listen, this pretty much concludes our live streaming. I want to thank all of you for your contributions. Awesome questions. Thank you for that. We've got, I also want to thank Lauren O'Neill, Mark Robinson, Tyler Hamilton, Melinda Singh, everybody back on stage as well, back behind the scenes as well, that were helping to put this together. And just to reiterate again, is that this storm system, it's like today is the jab, tomorrow is the haymaker. There's a lot more coming in. If you're into the further east you are, well, it arrives a bit later, so there's going to certainly be some rough travel through here. So let's just end off with some video again, and this is the scenes in Toronto. So you see all the old snow's been pushed off to the side, but they're going to get their entire fleet there to busy it. They'll be all working again. And for those of you who work as a living clearing the snow, listen, thank you for doing a great job, and hopefully this will keep you employed. And mainly, thank you for watching our live stream.